The wheelchair rolled to a stop at the altar. Emma Montgomery, tech billionaire and supposedly wheelchair-bound for life, looked up at her reluctant groom with tears streaming down her face. The church fell silent as she gripped the armrests of her chair. What happened next would change everything, not just for Jack, the struggling single father who'd agreed to this arrangement out of desperation, but for everyone watching. If you've ever wondered if true love can grow from the most unlikely circumstances, this story will show you how life's greatest blessings often come disguised as our biggest challenges. Like, subscribe, and join me on this emotional journey that proves sometimes, the things we're forced to do become the very things that save us. Jack Reynolds stared at his reflection in the mirror, barely recognizing the man in the tailored suit staring back at him. 6 months ago, he'd been working 3 jobs, drowning in medical debt, and facing eviction, all while trying to raise his 8-year-old daughter Lily after his wife's death from cancer. Now he was about to marry one of the richest women in the country, a woman he'd never even met until 3 months ago. A woman who had made him an offer that felt both like salvation and surrender, marriage in exchange for financial security for him and his daughter. "Daddy, you look like a prince." Lily twirled into the room in her flower girl dress, her face glowing with excitement. Jack forced a smile, kneeling down to her level. Her innocence was the only pure thing left in this arrangement. She didn't understand that this wasn't a fairy tale, it was a business transaction with Emma Montgomery, the reclusive tech genius who'd built a billion-dollar empire from her wheelchair after a car accident left her paralyzed 5 years ago. "Are you ready to meet your new mommy?" Lily asked, her eyes bright with hope that made Jack's chest ache. That was the part that gutted him most, Lily's desperate need for a mother figure, and his willingness to use that need as justification for what he was doing. "Almost ready, sweetheart," he said, straightening her flower crown. "Remember what we talked about? Ms. Montgomery is very nice, but she might need some time to get used to being a family. And she might be tired sometimes because of her health." Lily nodded solemnly. "I'll be extra helpful, Daddy. I promise." Jack swallowed the lump in his throat. 3 months ago, Emma Montgomery's lawyers had approached him with an unusual proposition. The billionaire needed a husband, partly for image reasons as her company prepared to go public, partly for practical assistance with her disability, and partly, they hinted, because of her loneliness. In exchange for marrying her and signing a 5-year contract, all of Jack's debts would be paid, Lily would attend the best schools, and they would want for nothing. If he stayed the full 5 years, he would walk away with enough money to secure their future forever. It had seemed like a miracle solution to his desperate situation. But as the wedding day approached, the weight of what he was doing, essentially selling himself, became harder to bear. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. "It's time, Mr. Reynolds," said the wedding planner, a stern woman who had orchestrated this entire elaborate charade. The guest list included tech industry elites, celebrities, and politicians, none of whom knew this was a marriage of convenience. Jack took Lily's hand and headed toward the church sanctuary. He'd only met Emma Montgomery twice before today, once for the initial agreement, and once for a photo shoot for the press announcement. Both times she had been reserved, businesslike, speaking mostly through her assistant. He knew almost nothing about the woman he was about to pledge his life to, except that she was brilliant, wealthy, and had built her empire creating accessibility technology after her accident. The church was filled with flowers and elegantly dressed guests. As Jack took his position at the altar, he scanned the crowd, feeling like an imposter. These weren't his people. This wasn't his world. The music changed, and the doors at the back of the church opened. Emma Montgomery appeared, her wheelchair pushed by her longtime assistant. Jack had seen photos of her, of course, but in person, she was more striking, her dark hair swept into an elegant updo, her sharp features softened by the white dress that flowed around her wheelchair. Her eyes, an intense blue, locked with his across the distance, and for a moment, he saw something unexpected there, vulnerability. As she approached the altar, Jack noticed her hands trembling slightly on the armrests of her chair. This woman who commanded boardrooms and built technological empires looked suddenly human, perhaps even afraid. It hadn't occurred to him until that moment that she might be as uncomfortable with this arrangement as he was. The ceremony began, the words washing over Jack as he stood beside Emma's wheelchair. When it came time for vows, they exchanged the traditional promises, for better or worse, in sickness and health, words that felt hollow given the contract locked in a lawyer's office that spelled out exactly what this marriage really was. Then came the moment for the ring exchange. Jack knelt down to be at eye level with Emma, taking her hand to slip the platinum band onto her finger. Her hand was cool and soft in his, and when he looked up, their eyes met properly for the first time that day. "I, Emma, take you, Jack," she began, her voice clear and steady despite the emotion he could see building behind her eyes. As she finished her vows, something shifted in her expression. She glanced toward Lily, who was watching with wide-eyed wonder from her seat in the front row, then back to Jack. Then, to the astonishment of everyone present, Emma Montgomery gripped the armrests of her wheelchair and began to push herself up. A collective gasp rippled through the church. Jack stared in disbelief as Emma slowly, shakily, rose to her feet. Her assistant rushed forward, but Emma held up a hand to stop her, her eyes never leaving Jack's face. "Before we finish this ceremony," Emma said, her voice carrying through the stunned silence, "there's something you need to know." She stood unsteadily, clearly struggling but determined. "I haven't stood on my own in 5 years. My doctors said I never would again. But for the past year, I've been working with specialists, trying experimental treatments. I wanted to walk again, not for the public, not for my company, but for myself. For moments like this." Jack could only stare, his mind struggling to process what was happening. "I didn't tell you," Emma continued, her voice softer now, meant only for him though the church's perfect acoustics carried it to every corner, "because I didn't want this to be part of our arrangement. I didn't want you to feel obligated to care about my recovery. But standing here now, making these vows, even knowing why we're really here, I realized I can't start this marriage with secrets." She took a shaky step toward him, and Jack instinctively reached out to steady her. Her fingers gripped his arms with surprising strength. "I may never walk normally again," she said, looking up at him. "This is the result of thousands of hours of therapy, and I might only manage a few steps at a time. But I'm not the helpless woman you might have thought you were marrying. And I want you to know that while our beginning may be unconventional, I intend to be a real partner to you, and a friend to your daughter, if you'll let me." Jack felt something crack open inside him, the protective shell he'd built around his heart since losing his wife, the cynicism that had allowed him to enter this business arrangement. In Emma's eyes, he saw not the cold billionaire he'd expected, but a woman who had fought her way back from tragedy, just as he had. "I think," he said quietly, finding his voice at last, "that we might have more in common than I realized." The minister, recovering from his shock, cleared his throat. "Shall we continue?" Emma nodded, still standing, though Jack could see the effort it took. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Jack hesitated only briefly before leaning down to place a gentle kiss on Emma's lips, their first. It was meant to be perfunctory, part of the show, but something unexpected passed between them in that moment, a spark of possibility. As they turned to face the applauding crowd, Emma whispered, "I think I need to sit down now." Jack helped her back into her wheelchair with care, noticing how she tried to mask her exhaustion. As they proceeded down the aisle, Lily broke protocol and ran to them, throwing her arms around Emma's neck. "Does this mean you're my new mommy now?" she asked, loud enough for nearby guests to hear and smile at the charming child. Emma looked startled, then touched. She glanced at Jack, then back to Lily. "I would be honored to be your friend, Lily," she said carefully. "And maybe, in time, we can see about being a family." The reception was a blur of congratulations and champagne toasts. Jack moved through it on autopilot, playing his role as the devoted new husband while trying to process everything that had happened. Emma worked the room like the business leader she was, charming and gracious despite her obvious fatigue. It wasn't until late that night, after they'd arrived at Emma's sprawling cliffside mansion, that they had a moment alone. Lily had been shown to her new room, a princess suite that had made her squeal with delight, and put to bed by the housekeeper. Jack and Emma sat in her private living room, the pretense of the day finally falling away. "You could have told me," Jack said at last, breaking the silence. "About the walking." Emma sighed, rubbing her temples. She had changed from her wedding gown into silk pajamas, looking younger and more vulnerable without her formal attire. "I've learned to be cautious about who I share my weaknesses with. The business world isn't kind to perceived vulnerability." "Is that what this is? A weakness? In their eyes?" "Absolutely." She gestured to the wheelchair positioned nearby. "This became part of my identity, part of my brand. The billionaire who built an empire from her wheelchair. The woman who turned personal tragedy into innovation. The press ate it up. And now? Now I'm somewhere in between. I can stand, take a few steps, but I'll never run a marathon. I still need the chair most of the time. It's complicated to explain to the world." Jack studied her, seeing beyond the public persona for the first time. "Why me?" he asked suddenly. "Your lawyers must have vetted hundreds of candidates. Why choose a broke single dad with nothing to offer but debt and baggage?" Emma's expression softened. "You underestimate yourself, Jack. I chose you because when my team investigated your background, they found someone who had faced the worst life could throw at him and still got up every morning to make pancakes shaped like dinosaurs for his daughter. Someone who worked 3 jobs rather than give up. Someone who, despite every hardship, had never become bitter." She paused. "And yes, someone who needed what I could offer badly enough to consider this arrangement." Jack felt exposed, realizing how thoroughly she must have investigated his life before approaching him. "So this is charity, then?" "No," Emma said firmly. "This is a partnership. I need things too, Jack. My life may look perfect from the outside, but it's lonely. Isolated. People either see the chair or the bank account, never just me." She looked away. "And yes, I need practical help sometimes. And a stable family image for the company's public offering. But mostly." She trailed off. "Mostly what?" "Mostly, I saw how you were with Lily. How despite everything, you gave her stability and love. And I thought maybe some of that warmth could extend to a life that's been cold for a very long time." The honesty in her voice struck Jack deeply. He had expected this marriage to be a clinical arrangement, but Emma Montgomery was revealing herself to be far more human than he had anticipated. "I don't know how to be a husband anymore," he admitted. "After Sarah died, I shut that part of myself down." "I'm not asking you to love me, Jack," Emma said quietly. "Just to be my partner in this. To help me navigate the world, as I help you navigate yours. And maybe, to be my friend." Jack nodded slowly. "I think I can manage that." As the weeks passed, they settled into an unexpected rhythm. Jack and Lily moved into Emma's home, which was already fully accessible due to her needs. Lily started at her new private school, thriving in the enriched environment. Jack, at Emma's insistence, quit his multiple jobs to focus on managing their household and supporting Lily's transition. Emma continued her physical therapy, allowing Jack to witness her struggles and small victories. Some days she could walk short distances, other days the pain and fatigue kept her firmly in her wheelchair. Jack found himself admiring her determination, the way she pushed through discomfort without complaint. For public appearances, they played the part of the devoted couple, attending charity galas, industry events, and Lily's school functions together. In private, they developed a companionable friendship, sharing meals and gradually opening up about their pasts. Jack learned that Emma had been a rising star in the tech world even before her accident, which had occurred when a drunk driver hit her car head-on, killing her fiancé instantly and leaving her with a spinal cord injury. Rather than accept the limitations doctors predicted, she had channeled her grief and frustration into creating adaptive technologies, building her company from her hospital bed. Emma, in turn, discovered the depth of Jack's loss when his wife died after a 2-year battle with cancer, leaving him emotionally and financially devastated. She came to understand his protective nature with Lily, his reluctance to open his heart again. 3 months into their marriage, the dynamic shifted. It happened on a rainy Sunday afternoon. Lily had convinced Emma to help her build a blanket fort in the living room, something Emma had never done as a child in her strict, achievement-focused household. Jack walked in to find his normally composed, corporate-minded wife crawling through a tunnel of sheets, her wheelchair abandoned, laughing as Lily directed their construction project. Something warm and unexpected bloomed in his chest at the sight. That evening, after Lily was asleep, he found Emma in her study, reviewing company documents. "Thank you," he said from the doorway. "For today." I haven't heard Lily laugh like that since before Sarah got sick. Emma looked up, her expression softening. "She's an extraordinary child. You've done an amazing job with her, Jack." "We're doing better, now that you're in our lives," he admitted. It was the first time he'd acknowledged that their arrangement had become something more meaningful than a contract. Emma wheeled herself from behind the desk, coming to stop in front of him. "I never expected to care about you both so much," she said quietly. "It wasn't part of the plan." Jack knelt down to her level, a habit he'd developed to maintain eye contact during serious conversations. "I think we've moved beyond the plan, don't you?" Their first real kiss, not for show, not for cameras, but for themselves, happened naturally, a gentle exploration that quickly deepened into something neither had anticipated when they'd signed their marriage contract. As their personal relationship deepened, challenges emerged. Emma's company was preparing for its public offering, requiring long hours and intense focus. Jack struggled to find his place in her world of tech innovators and venture capitalists, feeling out of his depth at corporate events despite Emma's encouragement. Then came the media scrutiny. A tabloid ran a story suggesting their marriage was a sham, orchestrated for business purposes. The article dug into Jack's financial troubles before the wedding, implying he was a gold digger who had targeted a vulnerable disabled woman. Emma was furious, ready to unleash her legal team, but Jack was devastated. The article had exposed the kernel of truth at the heart of their beginning, that money had indeed been his initial motivation. The fact that their relationship had evolved into something genuine didn't erase his shame over how it had started. "They're not entirely wrong," he told Emma during a tense discussion in their bedroom. "I did marry you for financial security. That was the deal." "That was then," Emma insisted. "What we have now is real. I know it, you know it. But will Lily know it? When she's old enough to understand, to read these stories, will she think I sold myself? That I used her need for a mother as an excuse?" The question hung between them, unanswerable. That night, they slept apart for the first time since their relationship had turned intimate. The strain continued as Emma's company launched its IPO. The stock soared, making her even wealthier, while Jack felt increasingly like an accessory in her life rather than a partner. Their communication faltered. Emma retreated into work, while Jack focused on Lily, both avoiding the growing distance between them. The breaking point came 6 months into their marriage. Emma had been pushing herself too hard, working 18-hour days while continuing her physical therapy. Jack found her collapsed in her home office, unable to reach her wheelchair after her legs had given out. At the hospital, the doctors confirmed she had suffered a setback due to exhaustion and overexertion. She would need to scale back her physical therapy and possibly accept that she had reached the limits of her recovery. In her hospital room, with Lily asleep in a chair in the corner, Jack finally confronted the truth. "I can't lose you," he said, holding Emma's hand tightly. "I've already lost one woman I love. I won't survive losing another. Emma's eyes widened. You love me? Of course I love you, Jack said, the admission breaking free after months.